Hello and welcome to The Trade. Before we get into the trades and charts you should be watching, let's have a quick look at what traders are watching. And President Trump discussed a new Iranian proposal on resolving the war with his top national security aides as the conflict remains in a stalemate. Iranian sources revealing the regime's latest proposal, which would set aside discussion of Iran's nuclear program until the war is ended and disputes over shipping from the Gulf are resolved. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio, meanwhile, says he thinks Iran is trying to buy more time, saying, quote, "We can't let them get away with it." Meanwhile, in Washington this week, Federal Reserve policymakers will gather in what may be Jerome Powell's last meeting as head of the US Central Bank. While interest rates are expected to remain on hold, the policy committee will have to decide if it's time to acknowledge the possibility of hiking borrowing costs if inflation continues to accelerate. Fed Governor Christopher Waller saying that the longer energy prices remain elevated and the strait is constrained, the greater the chances that higher inflation gets embedded across a wide variety of goods and services. US Treasuries eased after softer than expected front-end options. The 10-year 4.35%. Aussie 3-year government bond yields rose to 4.7, the 10-year 5.05%. And having a look at where the Aussie dollar is sitting ahead of tomorrow's key inflation data, it's pretty solid at 71.9 US cents. Well, markets are being pulled in multiple directions right now with central bank decisions, currency volatility and geopolitical risks all in focus. Peter McGuire from trading.com joins me now. Peter, let's cover off a few key markets with you and kicking it off with the importance of the US dollar versus the yen, particularly with the BOJ in focus.
Absolutely. Good morning, Juliet. I tell you what, it's a big week for central banks. We've got the BOJ. Well, I think they'll hold steady on their third consecutive meeting, and that's on today in Tokyo. It's currently sitting at 0.75%. Investors will shift their attention to the fresh quarterly outlook, and we're looking forward to the press conference from Governor Ueda. So it's been very much range bound. We understand the war situation, and you've got Kevin Warsh ready in the pilot's seat to jump in after Fed Chair Powell waves his goodbyes. So it's very dynamic. And are we going to see any form of intervention, Juliet, as far as BOJ in the short run, or are they going to sit on their hands and sit pat? So it's very dynamic. I think where we're looking at the moment, you've also got to take on consideration where the US is. Expect inflation to tick up to 3.2% year on year in March, which will be dropped on Thursday. We've got core PCE being released. So it's a very dynamic week and plenty to unpack, Juliet.
Yeah, it certainly is, and obviously a very key risk barometer as well, that one. What about when it comes to the euro? Because it is a huge week of central bank decisions as well. What are we seeing in terms of the technicals with the euro against the dollar?
Well, you can't take your eyes off, first off, from a fundamental perspective, ECB are meeting also. So will the bulls take control? You're looking above that 117 handle. We're currently sitting at about 117.16. About that sort of handle as far as euro US dollar. And I feel as though the US, where the euro is enjoying a sizable green candle for a second straight day ahead of this week's policy meetings. The ECB has tipped to hold rates steady, however, Juliet. High energy prices are driving inflation higher. Also, from a technical perspective, indicators are pointing to a mildly bullish momentum as the RSI is hovering above the 50 neutrals level and edging towards the 60 mark. Also, keep an eye on MACD. It's hovering in a positive territory. You're moving averages. So, plenty of news to drop and plenty of impact from policy rate decisions and high energy prices with the war and how this is all going to be rolled across as far as a currency trade in the short to medium term.
Let's talk about equity markets, Peter, because despite all the noise and uncertainty, US markets still holding at these all-time highs. But you're looking at the US 30 index. What's it showing you?
49,167 is the Dow at the moment, Juliet. You're looking at a high of about 50,500. I'm expecting, the way it's going as far as chart and where you're looking, to the upside, I feel as though you'll probably test 50,000 in the short to medium term. Let's look again what Fed Chair Powell has to say and the impact that, rate decisions will have on the economy. its big brothers as far as S&P 500 and the Nasdaq and even the Russell 2000 are at all-time highs. So it obviously, I think, would continue that uplift. And where we're seeing things, it's going to be again, is Kevin Warsh going to change mood? What's the Fed policy going to be? And if President Trump gets the war understood and sorted in the month of May, then that's going to be, I think, blast off for US equities in the final 2 quarters of the year. So it's pretty hard not to be bullish, isn't it?
It certainly is, Pete, and always good to be optimistic, as you always are as well. Great to chat, Peter McGuire from trading.com. That does it for this edition of The Trade. Be sure to join us next time.